the illusion of certainty, how your mind creates a world that doesn't exist. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what if everything you believe is real, isn't? Not in a sci-fi simulation theory kind of way, but in the most intimate, immediate sense, your thoughts, your memories, your beliefs. What if the very fabric of your reality, the things that feel true, solid, yours, are actually constructs, programs, scripts, inherited reflexes passed down by culture, trauma, and habit? This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's philosophy at its sharpest edge. Descartes once doubted everything except the fact that he was doubting. Buddha taught that attachment to illusions is the root of suffering. Neuroscience now confirms that the brain doesn't record reality, it interprets it, which means you're not living in what is. You're living in a filtered version of what is. A version shaped by your past, your fears, your biases. So the question is, if your experience of reality is a projection, who's the projector?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's take something simple, a conversation. You say something to a friend, they react. You immediately feel offended or rejected or validated. That emotional response feels real. But look deeper. Is it based on what actually happened or what you think happened? Is it based on their words or your interpretation of their tone? Their body language? Your assumptions? That entire emotional storm might be fake. Not fake as in doesn't exist, but fake as in fabricated. Your brain filled in the missing pieces. Your nervous system reacted according to a script written years ago. Maybe you weren't even reacting to your friend, you were reacting to your father, your ex, your third-grade teacher. This is how most of us live, trapped in a theater of our own mind, mistaking shadows on the wall for the truth. Plato called this the cave. The Buddha called it illusion. Psychologists call it cognitive distortion. I call it the greatest con job you'll ever fall for, your own mind, pretending to be reality. And here's where it gets even more wild. The emotions you feel, those deep gut-level truths, are often the most deceptive. We're taught to trust our feelings. But what if your feelings are unreliable narrators? Think about fear. It feels so real. Your heart races. Your stomach tightens. But how many times have you been afraid and nothing actually happened? Your body responded to a thought as if the thought was a fact. That's not intuition. That's programming. And it's not just fear. It's shame, anger, even love. How many people fall in love with an idea of someone, a fantasy they project onto a stranger? How many friendships fall apart because of imagined slights, unspoken expectations, invisible scripts? You see, everything that feels real to you might not be real at all. It might be a story. And if you never question the story, you'll never wake up from the dream. Now let's get really uncomfortable. What if your identity is fake? Not in the sense that you're lying, but in the sense that you inherited it. You didn't choose your name, your language, your religion, your nationality, your gender norms. You were given them, like a costume you were told to wear before you even understood what you was. And over time, you didn't just wear the costume, you became it. You said, this is who I am. But is it? Or is it just what you've always known? Identity can be empowering, but it can also be a prison. Because if everything you believe about yourself came from outside of you, who are you really? Can you even answer that question without using labels you didn't invent? This is the root of existential awakening, realizing that most of what you call me is just a collection of borrowed ideas. And once you see that, everything changes. You stop clinging. You start seeing. So where does this leave us? If everything that feels real might be fake, how do we live? That's the paradox. You can't escape illusion entirely, but you can learn to see it. You can become aware of the filters. You can question your emotions. You can notice the story spinning in your head and ask, is this true? Or is this just familiar? That moment of questioning is the crack in the matrix. It's the key that unlocks freedom, not freedom from reality, but freedom from delusion. And that's the goal. Not to escape the world, but to meet it with clean perception. To stop reacting to ghosts and start responding to truth. But that requires one thing above all, the courage to doubt what feels real. To hold uncertainty not as a threat, but as a doorway. So I'll ask you this: how much of your life is being lived by a version of you that never questioned the script? The Great Unveiling, how to tear down illusions and see what's actually there. If part 1 was about realizing the dream you're trapped in, then this part is about waking up. The Great Unveiling doesn't happen all at once. It's not a single revelation that changes everything. It's a slow, persistent peeling back of layers. You don't wake up from illusion by force, you wake up through awareness, and through watching yourself with surgical honesty, through noticing how often your reactions aren't really yours, but echoes of other people's expectations. You start to see how much of your life is a performance, your personality curated, or your values inherited, your goals borrowed. And if you're brave enough, you start removing what isn't you. That's the unveiling. It's terrifying. And it's beautiful. Because every illusion you dismantle brings you one step closer to freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to stop being who you're not. Let's talk about beliefs. Most people think beliefs are things they choose. But most beliefs are things we absorb. From childhood, we're like sponges. We soak up the worldview of our parents, our culture, our peers. And then we defend those beliefs as if we invented them. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Not on the surface, go deeper. Why do you believe in ambition? Why do you believe in romantic love? Why do you believe in success, failure, morality, punishment, justice, even God? Most of us inherit these beliefs like family heirlooms, precious, unquestioned, and sometimes completely useless. But a belief you never question will eventually own you. It will steer your decisions. It will shape your fears. It will close your eyes in the name of comfort. So part of the Great Unveiling is this: not just asking what you believe, but how those beliefs got installed in your mind in the first place. Now let's go even further into the realm of perception. You think you see the world as it is, but you don't. You see the world as you are. Your brain is not a camera, it's a filter. It doesn't passively receive information, it actively constructs it. It fills in gaps, it edits, it colors. And it does all of this based on your past. That means your perception is not about truth, it's about survival. Your mind will distort, deny, and delete anything that doesn't fit the narrative it's already built. This is why two people can experience the same event and walk away with completely different realities. It's not because one is lying, it's because both are trapped inside their own perceptual bubble. So the unveiling requires humility. You have to admit, I might be wrong about this person, about this situation, about myself. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of wisdom. Because wisdom begins where certainty ends. But here's where things get real. Tearing down illusions doesn't just change how you think, it changes how you live. If your version of reality was built on fear, and you dismantle that fear, your entire life has to shift. You might leave the job you stayed in for security. You might walk away from the relationship you clung to for validation. You might stop chasing goals that were never yours to begin with. This is why most people don't want to wake up. Because waking up means change. It means loss. It means letting go of the identity you've spent years constructing. But the cost of staying asleep is even greater. It's living a life that isn't yours. It's dying with your song unsung. So yes, the truth will shake you. But it will also save you. It will return you to something deeper than belief, something undeniable. The felt reality of presence, of awareness, of being. So how do we practice this unveiling practically? Start small. Question your reactions. Notice when you feel triggered, when you feel judged, when you feel certain. Ask what's underneath this. Where did this come from? Is this mine? Then move to your routines. Ask, why do I do this? Who told me this matters? What would happen if I stopped? You'll begin to see how much is automatic, habitual, unnecessary. Then go deeper into your desires. Ask, why do I want this? Who benefits from this desire? Is this a true longing or a marketed one? These questions are not meant to destroy your life. They're meant to give it back to you. Because the moment you stop living inside illusion, you start living on purpose. And that's where real power begins, not in knowing everything, but in knowing what's not true. So I'll leave you with this. What part of your life feels the most real, and what if that's the part that's most fake? The real behind the real. How to rebuild a life that's actually yours. Once you've torn down the illusions, once you've seen that your emotions can lie, your beliefs can be borrowed, and your identity can be a costume, the next question is the most important one you'll ever ask. What is real? Not in the abstract metaphysical sense, but in your own life, in your own body, in your own breath. What is left when the false layers fall away? That answer isn't something I or anyone else can give you. It can't be downloaded. It can't be borrowed. It has to be felt. But I'll tell you this, the real is always simple. The real is always quiet. The real doesn't need to shout or convince. It just is. And when you start living from that place beneath the reactions, beyond the narratives, you start to taste a kind of freedom that no external success can touch. It's not about escaping the world. It's about finally meeting it, fully awake. So how do you rebuild a life that's actually yours? You begin with one principle, alignment. Alignment means that the way you live matches the truth you've uncovered. It means no longer betraying yourself for approval, no longer chasing what you don't even want, no longer pretending to believe things that your soul has outgrown. That kind of alignment feels like coming home. It's not always comfortable, but it's real. You start with your values, strip them back to the core. What actually matters to you, not to your parents, not to your culture, not to your past self, but to you right now. Then move to your time. How you spend your hours is how you spend your life. Are you living on autopilot, or are you designing your days with intention? Every hour is a vote for the kind of reality you believe in. So what are you voting for? Well, Next, you rebuild your relationships. This is one of the hardest parts because when you change, the people around you feel it. And not everyone will understand. Some will resist. Some will leave. Some will try to pull you back into the dream because your awakening threatens their comfort. But this isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You'll learn the difference between connection and attachment, between loyalty and self-abandonment. You'll stop performing and start relating. You'll begin to seek out people who speak to the part of you that's real, not the part of you that's masked. And when you find those people, those rare souls who see you without distortion, you'll realize something profound. You were never lonely. You were just surrounded by the wrong reflections. The more real you become, the more real your relationships become. And that is the beginning of love, true love, built on truth. Then comes your work, your purpose. This doesn't mean quitting your job and moving to a cabin in the woods, unless that's authentic for you. It means redefining success. It means asking, what am I here to give, not just get? It means shifting from performance to contribution, from status to service, from proving to expressing. When your work flows from your real self, it becomes a form of meditation. It doesn't drain you, it deepens you. And yes, it's scary to give up the metrics that once defined your worth. But what you gain in return is priceless: self-respect, integrity, fulfillment that doesn't depend on applause. And here's the twist: when you stop chasing validation, people can feel it. You become magnetic. Not because you're marketing yourself, but because authenticity is rare and we're all starving for it. Finally, you rebuild your inner life. The most important space of all. You begin to create rituals of remembering the practices that keep you rooted in the real. Maybe it's stillness. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's walking, praying, breathing, watching the sky. These aren't escapes. They're returns into the present, to the body, to the truth that doesn't shout. And over time, you begin to trust something deeper than thought. You begin to feel a quiet knowing that doesn't need proof. And that knowing becomes your compass, not certainty, but sincerity. Not control, but connection. That's the real behind the real. That's what we're all longing for, not a new belief, not a new identity, but a return to what's always been here, hidden beneath the noise. So I leave you with this final question. If you stripped away everything fake, what kind of life would naturally emerge? And do you have the courage to live it?